Let's fucking do this. Then do it. Do it 100%, because I'm trying to.
We recognize that we are limitless.
You gotta be a champion to become a champion, right? Winning is a habit because we create habits that lead to good execution and success.
Welcome to episode 41 of the Coaches Show. I'm Mike Bianca, coach of the New Orleans Hurricanes, with my co-host and friend Ryan Gray, coach of AC Diesel. We have an absolutely jam-packed show tonight, and we're going to do our best to try to get to everything on the plate. Lots of incredible action from this past week in Dreux, France. We will do a game breakdown from the NXL Europe Championship, as well as a recap of the UPBF Nations Cup. Tonight's episode is brought to you by Maxed Sportswear. For all your custom paintball goods, get Maxed. New Coaches Show apparel coming soon. Matter of fact, I believe Ryan is rocking one of them right now. Ryan, you want to give him a spin? And BKI, the best knowledge in paintball. New content is being added regularly, and you don't want to miss the additions Ryan and I are making to the coaches section. Ryan, my goodness gracious. What an absolutely epic event. What an adventure. My first time to Europe, your 400th. It's, and thank goodness you were there. We might cover that topic. Some of you might have heard there was a little bit of a health scare, but thank goodness the country hospitals in Dreux are awesome. So where do we start, man? I don't even know where to start. This was such an incredible adventure.
Well, we can start with the trip a little bit. Like, one of the things that I think is really special about our sport is when we have the opportunity to get out of our country, because as you and Alex both kind of mentioned a couple times, for those who don't know, Alex Sorensen, Major League Paintball Director of Marketing, also traveled with us, who had also not been out of the country. And it's kind of surreal, right? When you realize, like, you're getting to travel to another part of the world for paintball, right? So it's kind of silly when you think about the reason you're there. But Chinkat called it, like, we did the horrors bath of Paris, which literally means you hit the hot spots and move on, right? So I'll let you tell them all the places we went.
Oh my goodness. Well, we started obviously in the Lou, which, by the way, I had no idea was that. I can't even think of a word. Large doesn't do it.
Vast.
Epic. Vast is a great word. It was so vast. But when you stop and you really look around and you think about it, and you think about how that was done by hand, right, back in the day, and you're really looking at not just history, but you're looking at an absolute piece of art, and it's just incredible. I honestly, the words escape me. I wish Alex was on the show with us, maybe to give his take on it as well in his Alabama accent while living in Michigan. But it was really just amazing. So the Lou, we obviously the Eiffel Tower, which when you get there, you think, oh yeah, it's not as big as I thought it would be. And then you get there and you realize, wait, it's an optical illusion when you see just how huge that thing is, especially when you see people walking up it. And goodness gracious, we had a wonderful dinner that night. The food was incredible. The culture was incredible, man. I think didn't we walk about 12 miles that one day?
Yeah, we walked 8 miles by the time we kind of got to Notre Dame,
right?
Or maybe even right before Notre Dame. But yeah, we did. So we went to the Louvre. We did kind of the carousel entrance, and because the Olympics were still going on, so the Paralympics started on Wednesday while we were there. They still had all the Olympic stadiums were all still set up, so there were some places we couldn't go. The park leading into the Eiffel Tower, which I was really hoping you guys would get to see, but unfortunately couldn't do that. But we did Arc de Triomphe. So we got to kind of do the four sides of that, which was awesome. And then did Notre Dame last and by that time it was like 2:00 in the afternoon, and we needed naps. So because we landed at 6 a.m. and we had done a lot in the time that we were there. So yeah, it was a ton of fun. And so for me, I've seen all those things so many times. And what was cool for me is kind of watching you guys and your reaction, to seeing all of those things. And it was funny when we were walking into the first part of the Louvre, and I heard you say, I think this is like some sort of national building. And I was like, no, this is the Louvre. Like, this is part of it. And you'll see in a moment, as we're going to walk through this little corridor, you'll see on the other side, this is the Louvre. So that was awesome for me. Just kind of, again, get to watch you guys kind of experience it for the first time. So really, really cool. Yeah, and then had a great birthday. Monday was my birthday, so we got to do a fun birthday dinner with our friends. Our friend Vince Lemeltier, who's the coach of Team Scalp, who we're going to talk at length about tonight, because they have literally done something that's never been done in paintball history.
That's right.
And probably won't ever happen again.
No.
Probably won't ever happen again. Really interesting. And the story of what they've done is amazing. And we'll dig more into that. We want to get Vince back on the show maybe a week or two after Chicago. I'd like to have him on. And then also have Dustin Houck on, who's the owner and player coach for Ballistics. And I don't want to screw up their city, so I'm just going to skip it and say Ballistics. Love to have get them both on and kind of talk about, processes. Dustin is actually the other coach who sent me just an incredibly detailed breakdown of the field, all these different shooting lanes, bounce shots, their play and development and progressions. I think it was like 11 pages, very similar to the one that we got from our dinner with Charlie and his teammate. And we're going to share those things with you guys. We're just waiting for a couple of weeks to get past the event, but I'm going to scan them in, and I'm going to send them out to everybody or post them on our social media, just so you guys can see kind of what these European teams are doing, because I think it's really important when we start to wonder how these European teams are beginning to play catch up. I'll show you. Like, we're going to show you how they're playing catch up, because it's amazing the detail that they put into these literally bound books that they give to each player before the event as study material that they can go back and examine. And I think we do things here in America in a more kind of fluid and a malleable way, where we know that things are going to change. But I think what they're doing is really impressive. And you and I talked about it after that dinner with Charlie. Like, I got to step my game up a little bit. I need to get back into some of the detailed things I was doing before. And I send stuff out to my guys, but not in that kind of, I think you and I both were like, man, this is impressive, right? This is impressive. Their code library on the first page. So we're going to get some of those things out, and maybe we can dig in a little more with Vince too, see if he does some things like that. But yeah, amazing event. So we on Tuesday get up in the morning, headed up to Normandy, and got to go kind of stand on that hollowed ground for a bit and take it in, which I know was really special to you. Same.
Yes.
To me, it was, I'd seen it before, but seeing it, I was really young when I saw it the last time. Seeing it as an adult certainly had a different impression, right? Gave me a kind of different emotion. So, and then very quickly back. So we had a 5-hour drive to Normandy, and then out back to the field, or south to the field. So we really didn't get much time at Normandy, about 30 minutes, but totally worth it. Worth the 5-hour drive.
100%. It was in a very emotional experience for me, to be, as you called it, the hallowed ground. And you and I discussed the dichotomy of standing there, looking at this absolutely beautiful beach where an absolutely horrible yet heroic thing happened, and to see people just having a day at the beach. And they're able to do that because of what happened there. And so it was really incredible. It was just really incredible. The monument there is beautiful. The whole area is gorgeous. So, just driving through the countryside of France was quite the impression, as well. It's amazing. But then, of course, we arrive at Ace Paintball, which I believe you have told me, and several Europeans did, that it used to be a racetrack that has now been turned into this. And let me tell you, ladies and gentlemen, you saw it on video. You'll see it here tonight, maybe, hopefully. But the stands, the grandstands for the main pro state, that's how you do it. That was really incredible. And the crowd participation was amazing. There you go. You can see it right there in the back. That is all concrete, if I recall. And let me tell you, when the crowd goes off, you hear them.
Yeah, I mean, you can literally hear everything. I mean, it's amazing. And how about the chants, right? Like we kind of talked about it a little bit before when we had the Team USA show. Man, they start chanting, and it's like it just echoes.
Mm-hmm.
It just echoes.
It's really great. When we were getting ready for the Nations Cup, all the different countries that had, were represented, and they all did their, national anthems, and some of them were lit. Like Italy's. I'll never forget Italy's. Man, they had a dance and everything going with it, percussion and
and there might have been some beers flowing, might have been some beers flowing. I saw a lot of, especially for the fans that were there literally just to watch paintball. They weren't playing. It's like camping. They showed up at 9 a.m, cooler beer, and looks like they sounded like several had, because it was noon when we did
had consumed the entire cooler.
Yeah, it was noon when we did the flag ceremony. So and all the games and the flag ceremony, it's all on YouTube right here on this channel, so you guys can go check it out. It was really, really impressive. So first thing we'll kind of discuss tonight was we'll talk a little bit about Nations Cup. It was like honor is, I don't even know is enough of a big enough word to even describe kind of standing out there with your team and your anthem playing and then being able to go into the competition. Just so much emotion, that's happening during that time. And it means something different, right? Like we all want to win the events that we're at, whether it's a local or NXL, whatever the case may be. You really, you want to win. It just means something different when you're wearing the USA on your chest, and and you're collaborating and creating synergy and energy with your group that it's literally just a hodgepodge of guys from all these different teams. I coach the vets, and it's guys that aren't even really on teams anymore. It's just it's an amazing thing, and it's just I'm so proud to be a part of it, right? So proud to have been a part of it.
Yeah, absolutely. It was surreal to stand there with all those incredibly talented American players, some that I've looked up to since I first started, to now be sharing, obviously being part of wearing the USA. You're absolutely right. The honor doesn't do it just quite to justice that you feel it, but you really are connected in that moment. Several of us are competitors back home, but there, man, I think you and I said this a lot. The USA rolls deep when we showed up in Europe. And let me tell you, we came to win. We were sent there to win. The expectation was for us to win. And I think every single American player had that imprinted on their heart when they got there, that my job is to put my best foot forward and represent my country and win. And it's real. And it's interesting because I had a lot of conversations with a lot of the Europeans, and they recognize that about American sports. They recognize the fact that it's very much about that with the Americans. And, it was really, that was another great, enjoyable moment, was speaking to a lot of the European teams and the European players and coaches and seeing their reaction and their attitudes and all their perceptions. And it, you're right. I don't know if we're both jet lagged, ladies and gentlemen. Ryan are both, Ryan and I are just barely holding on. So if we don't have the vocabulary this evening, my apologies. But
yeah, I took an alpha
it's
brain about an hour ago, hoping that would kickstart everything, and it's only mildly working, but that's okay. It's all right. We're going to power through.
That's right.
So yeah, we'll kind of talk a little bit about each one of the divisions, and then we'll talk a little bit about the coaches show, the clinic that we did there, because it was awesome. And then, time permitted, then we'll kind of go through the NXL event, and then time permitting, we will close out kind of with the breakdown of the final match, and we're hopeful we'll get there. And we should. It's just going to depend on how much brain power and energy we have. So I'll kind of start with the U16s. So
my boys.
Yeah. So for those who don't know, there are 5 divisions at Nations Cup. The United Paintball Federation, which is Laurent, and a great team of people who put on this event. So there's 5 different divisions. There's U16, U19, the women's, the vets, which is over 40 men, and then the men, right? So just whomever. So you have some players who can cross over, right? So there were some players playing on the vets and the men's. Same thing. There were some I saw in some of the country teams who were crossing over between U19 and the men's. So you could play it any way you wanted to. As long as you fit into the category. If you were over 40 and still really, really good, you could play in both. If you were over if you were under 19, so 18 under, but still really good, you could play up with the men. So we'll start with the U16s. Third place was France, second place Italy, and first place United States of America. So I'll let you kind of talk about this group, because you had an opportunity to coach them through the NXL portion of the event, but got to know them really well. And so I'll let you talk about the U16s.
Absolutely. So first of all, big shout out to my boys, Evan, Nathan, Cameron, Trey, Mason, Luke, Eli. My goodness, it wasn't very hard. So what I mean by that is a big shout out to Marcelo Margot, Kyle Berry, Pat Kraft Jr. Again, big shout out to Lori and Anthony. I can't thank you guys enough for giving Ryan and I the opportunity to do this. But I did want to shout out to their coaches, Marcelo, Kyle Berry, and Pat Kraft. Guys, you have done such a good job preparing these men. Not to mention the families and the friends of those young men. Your support for these young men, you can tell that they were just fired up, ready to go. And I can't thank all of the family and friends enough for helping those young men, realize this dream. So because the vets, the women's, the men's, U16 and U19 were all playing very close together, we decided to split the staff up. And I was given the U16 as an opportunity to try and help them through. And I got to tell you that the most American paintball is in a good place right now. And it's obvious that the Combine is doing this, is a part of this. I don't even know where to go from that, but they are so coachable. They are so focused. They were hitting their shots. They would listen to me. They would look me in the eye. They listened to every word. They give great feedback. They were confident. And I couldn't thank the U16 USA enough. Evan, great job. Nathan, great job. Cameron, great job. Trey, great job. Mason, great job. Luke, great job. And Eli, great job. I believe Evan actually played on the U16 as well as the U19 team. So Evan, man, great job as well there, playing dual roles. But these young men came there to play, and they executed the game plan. They never once were out of the fight. And matter of fact, I think they pretty much controlled every match is the best way to describe it. Now, some people may not know this, but during the Team USA U16, it is a 3-man. So a lot can go wrong on that field. in a 3-man. So long story short, they executed well. They did the game plan. They went out there and did exactly what they needed to do. And I couldn't be more impressed.
A penalty in 3-man is devastating.
Yes, absolutely.
It is.
You lose 66% of your playing power right there. So, you know, it was one of those things where they already knew how they wanted to play the field. It was simply a matter of kind of letting them off the leash a little bit. And that was the fun part about getting an opportunity to coach those young men. And I really enjoyed it. So.
And you did an amazing job with them. Like, you know, sitting back and listening to how you were communicating with them, it was really impressive. Treated them like, you know, young men, and understood kind of how to just let them go and do their thing. And I loved how you brought them into each part of the process. Like, you did a great job. And here's a question that's kind of leading into this discussion. Yeah, what was the biggest challenge coaching players you don't normally coach?
Mm-hmm.
What did you learn that would help you, that would help a coach who's still getting familiar with the players? So why don't, and here's where I think where you started great right off the bat. Why don't you tell them what you did as soon as you found out you were going to take that team over for the remainder of the event? What's the first thing you did?
The first thing I did was I went and found them all and I asked the parents for their help. Right. And I asked them if they had a group chat, a text, could we bring them all together? And so they all came together and I literally just introduced myself, went around the room and basically got them to introduce themselves. I got them to tell me about themselves, where they played, what they felt their strengths were, and just let them kind of give me the data. And I set the pace immediately by saying, well, you guys, I remember saying this, I said, you guys are the SMEs. You are the subject matter experts, and you are going to help coach, right? You are going to coach me, coach you. And we just started off that way. And after I had a match or two under my belt with them, it was obvious these boys really knew how to communicate with me, because everything they said about their strengths and their capabilities came to fruition during those 2 matches. Once I understood that, we were off to the races. So yes, I think one of the first things, the most important thing to do was build a repertoire with them, a rapport with them, understand how they think, get them to talk to me so I could understand how they thought, how they communicated, how they worked. And once you get an understanding of that, then you start trying to piece it together on how to leverage their strengths and against the layout. And it was a lot of fun, that whole process, getting to know them. And you've got to build that trust. Now, how do you build trust that quickly? And the best way to do that is exactly like you were saying, Ryan. Hey, I'm going to treat you like a young man, right? You're the expert here, right? And we're going to do this together. We're not separate. We're the team. And once again, there came that culture that was kind of already implied from a United States perspective, right? We're here representing the United States. This is not about us individually. It's about this. And once we had that connection, man, it was on like Donkey Kong. And those boys, they were firing on all cylinders. So I hope that answered the question.
Yeah, great answer. Yeah, so media pros, that's that's the biggest challenge, is being able to understand how the players learn, not how we coach, but how they learn, so that it gives us some perspective on things that we need to do to change how we talk, or how we're creating plays and how we're going to draw them out. Some players are more visual, some players are more audios. Again, I don't have the word for that because my brain's shut down, but auditory.
There you go, auditory
way. Yeah. So that's the biggest challenge when you're working with a group that you don't know very well, is figuring out quickly kind of how they learn. I had to coach the kids for one day, and if Mike wants to talk about the reason why, that'll be up to him. I had to coach him for one day and literally walked up and just had to start coaching. I didn't get an opportunity really to know that. I barely even knew their first names. So it was really very tough. It was really hard for me to come in and try to fill in a short period of time and not really know them or understand. I'd watched some of the things Mike had done, so we ran some similar plays. We were already in by the second match that I coached them. I got them for third and fourth match of the NXL part, and we were already in. So in the fourth one, I just tried a few things just to give Mike some options for Sunday paintball in case he needed them, and that was kind of it. So, but Mike did an amazing job with them. Like the way that he jumped in kind of mid-tournament, took them on, and created rapport so quickly was really impressive. And so that's his answer to your question is perfect. Get to know them really well, find out how they learn, so that you can then change and morph the way that you coach into how each one of them kind of individually learns. It was really fun to watch.
Yeah, it's actually a really great question, because I've always been surprised by people who say, yeah, we're bringing in a coach for the event. And I'm like, okay, so he was at your practices, right? And they're like, well, no, we're just bringing him in for the event. So that's scary, right? So totally. That's a great question, because you're right. I didn't know their speed. I didn't know their gun handling skills. I didn't know any of those things, right? So there had to be that trust between all of us. And luckily, those young men were raised very well and very trusting, and they made my job very easy. So great question. And I did want to say, I am going to clear the air real quick. Thank you, Ryan. I want to do this publicly in front of everybody. I know I've thanked you gratuitously over the last several, but my friend Ryan, literally, if you were to ask me at the time, he saved my life is the best way to put it. Because it was one of the most difficult decisions in my life at 3 a.m. in the morning to get to walk over to his bed and wake him up and say, hey, something's wrong. We need to go to the hospital. And that guy didn't skip a beat. He knew exactly what was up, took me to the hospital, and took over the young men the next day on maybe 2 hours sleep, Rye. So
not enough.
It's just incredible, So everybody from the coaching staff this week did an incredible job, and I can't thank you enough for everything you did, and thank you for supporting me doing that and keeping me alive.
Yeah, that was not a fun way to wake up, but yeah, it was my pleasure. All right, so U19s, we had Brazil, which, by the way, we had Shallow All Media on several episodes ago. We talked a lot about Brazil paintball and how it was kind of shrinking, right? Well, Brazil showed up at Nations Cup with a team in every single division. I mean, their size of their group looked like the size of the U.S. group. I mean, they were massive.
Yep.
So shout out to Shallow, like all the things you're doing there in Brazil. Huge for paintball. It was so cool to see how you guys showed up. And then also to hear you in the stands, because we could all hear you. Also right. Really awesome. So so congratulations to Brazil. U19 was third place. Poland U19 was second place, and then first place was the US U19. That team is just packed full of young, incredibly talented, very motivated young players. Marcelo has done an amazing job with that group. They looked, it was almost unfair how much better they look than all the other teams. Like they looked like, it looked like a Division I team playing against a Division III teams. That's what it looked like to me.
Yep. At times it certainly did. The execution and the of the game plan, feeding off each other, the communication, the cross-field communication was something to behold. And I think that's something that all the US teams had that I noticed a lot of the European teams didn't. And that was just incredible cross-field comms.
Totally. Yeah, they seemed to know everything that was going on at all times.
Especially with that big of a center, right? And being able to recognize what was happening. And it's because of that deductive reasoning and that gut instinct and that understanding of, well, if I know this, then this has got to be true. If A, then B. And it was really great to perceive. So great job.
Yeah,
great job by Marcelo.
So fast.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's exactly right.
So fast. And so honestly, so did the kids on the U16 team. Like Trey came off at one point in our fourth match, and I was trying to figure out why he wasn't getting into the snake. And there was a guy in one of the center bricks. I didn't even know the guy was there.
Right.
He walks off when I see that they, set up. He and Nate had set up a way to go kill them.
Yep.
And I had I'm like, why isn't he getting into the snake? And Anthony's standing next to me, and I was like, if he doesn't get in, man, like I'm not going to play him. I'll play Cam. Anyway, he comes back in afterwards, and I was like, hey, great job, right? Because he just intuitively did the math, right? He knew there's nobody alive in this area. There's nobody alive in this area. They got to be right here, right? And
That's
he
right.
figured it out, and it was just really impressive. But yeah, that U19 team, they look different, right, than all the other 19 teams that were there. I mean, France looked good too, but if you go watch the finals match, you can see. I mean, it's just. I think the final score of that match was 4-0. I think
I think it was, and I think that the most glaring thing for me for the U16 and the U19 teams versus the other teams was just the gun handling skills. Every American looks so fluid, right, with their marker, and not every team there looked very comfortable in their skin on the field, if that makes sense.
Well, and as you already mentioned too, the communication, like just the way that they communicated, and not like when we talk about communication, we're not just talking about where the guys are, in the up-down count.
Right.
They were putting it together, like how they were going to go win the game. They were doing things that, at the semi-pro, D2 semi-pro and pro level that were constantly grinding gears on. Right? Like those mathematical things. Okay, once we figure out where they are, now where's the space we need to be in and how do we get there? Can I help you do it? Just like it was a huge difference in from my perspective, watching them do those things versus the other teams. They're not just talking about the low level data. It got high level. This is how we're going to go win the point.
That's right. Really and not to get too far ahead of ourselves, but one thing that we talked about during the coaches clinic was, understanding the vacant space. And that's what they did really, really well. And by the way, shout out to Rich Atticus, the coach of the women's teams in USA. He's in this chat. So good evening, sir. It really was fun to watch. And as each team made it to the finals, what I absolutely loved was how every team was there supporting each other while each team was getting through their match. And it was just, I hate to be cliche, but it really was electric. And I can't wait to finish a zlog about this. I really can't. The Z-log is going to be off the chain, but right now I have too much stuff and I don't know when I'm going to get to it. So
yeah, this is the crazy time we're coming off, France, for all the pro teams, guys and coaches who literally, we're flying back yesterday, get back today. You're doing as much catch up as we can. The layout drops tomorrow for Chicago, and like literally just the grind begins immediately. You get kind of one day of full focus on work, and then it's like, okay, tomorrow I got to get right back to work on paintball stuff. So yeah, it's a wild time. It's basically 3 weeks of nonstop paintball, which we love, but it's really hard to do the regular things in life and do all those things as well. So
100%. So here's the part that I'm also really excited to talk about, because after the U16 and the U19, we're going to talk about the vets.
Yeah.
Okay. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you didn't know this, Ryan Gray coached the vets. And I have to tell you, watching them execute all the way up until finals was something to behold. And watching his process with the vets, why don't you talk about that? Talk about the difference actually between, me trying to build a rapport and you having to build a rapport with that kind of legendary status. That's the only word I can think of. The amount of intelligence, the amount of experience, over 100 years of paintball experience.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at Yeah, when you look at, there's 3 guys on that team that combined have over 100 years. 3.
Goodness. Yeah.
Yeah, between Todd Adamson, Frank Connell, and Ryan Greenspan, there's more than 100 years. So I didn't really have to create rapport with them because I've known all of them basically my entire career.
Mm-hmm.
So it wasn't as much about creating rapport as much as it was getting all their really good feedback and then putting it together. Here's what I'm thinking, bouncing it up kind of off of all of them, which made it just a really easy collaborative process. It was really simple, to be honest, until the finals, right? When I made some of those kind of changes on my own and, shifted Mark Johnson's release point from the tower. Instead of trying to get outside of the snake, let's just go through the middle, because they were setting up in the middle to kind of cut down the edges. If you go back and watch the finals, you'll see Ryan Greenspan go up the middle of the field to meet France's player coming up the middle. So in the vets, Germany was third, France was second, USA was first. And in the finals against France, we got down by 3 points in a race to 4 game. So we had to claw our way kind of back in. And it was, I made a comment a few times like, hey, the final, when we get into championship paintball, how did the 4 pods limit change your game plan? We'll talk about that because it was only 2 pods.
Right.
Yeah.
It's coming.
You didn't get 4, you got 2. So it really didn't change it on that layout. But I kept saying, like, as we got into the championship rounds, the ochos and then semifinals and on, I kept saying, like, hey, like, there's going to be times where somebody's going to have to be a hero, right? Mm-hmm. Somebody's going to need to be a hero. And that's the way paintball works. Like, when you look at championship games, someone's always a hero. Somebody picks the team up at some point, puts them on their back and says, I got it. This point, right? This one's mine. Mm-hmm. Well, Mark Johnson,
there it is,
and Ryan Greenspan at different points in those last 4 points, they just kind of traded off. Like Mark in point 4 shoots all 5 guys. Ryan Greenspan in point 6, point 5 shoots 3 guys, has a huge point. Mark Johnson again, then in point 6 comes out, shoots 3 guys. Ryan Greenspan in point 7 comes out, wins a one-on-one at the end to win the match. So, there were heroes involved, but the process for me and them was simple, right? Because I've known them so long. I know how they play. LP was probably the one I was least familiar with, but I coached against LP several times. So I had a pretty good idea what he's capable of. But he hasn't played high-level tournament paintball in a while, so there was took a little bit, I think, for him to kind of get his groove. But once he did, LP was awesome. Ryan Podesta played really well. I played against Ryan literally since the late 90s, early 2000s. So really familiar with how he played. Of course, I coached Mark Johnson and BJ Henningberg on AC Diesel. Obviously very familiar with them. And Ryan Greenspan. I mean, it's Ryan Greenspan. He's the greatest player ever to do this. You know what I mean? Right. So, like, to be able to have him and bounce things off of him, because he's not only an amazing player, his brain is just like, he understands the layout. He knows all the options. He's incredible. He's incredible.
He's a critical thinker. I appreciate critical thinkers.
Yeah, and they kind of all work, right? That's why they are where they are, and they've been in this so long. Is they're all, like I said this so many times, like when those guys came in and gave me information, there was never a question about, is this real information? Like, is this good? Right? They came back in and told me stuff. I believe them 100%, right? Thomas Taylor too. Thomas had some big moments. It was just an incredible experience. Totally fun. He gave me the option. Skinny gave me the option, like, which one of the groups do you want? You want the men or you want the olds? That's what he kept calling them, the olds.
The olds.
I was like, man, I'll take the vets. That group is fun. They're fun, right? I'll take the fun group. You can take the crazies. So
crazies.
Yeah, the crazies, right? So it was a great experience.
Yeah, I used to call my New Orleans Hurricanes the heart attack kids. Yeah, the vets definitely took that mantle away in that finals match. Right. But
literally like, man, in that second point where I send Ryan up to the middle to meet that guy and shoot him, I'm looking around at my pit full of my players, and I'm like, okay, that's the guy I picked to do this job, right?
Right.
The greatest
Right.
player to ever play the game. And I want to give him some props on this because I think this shows why he's so good. He goes up, he gets shot, he loses the gunfight, he comes off, and I'm like, hey, did he beat you there? And he's like, no. He's like, coach, I just missed. And I'm like, okay, right? Like on to the next, right? But it was
Right.
so the way he said it was like, yeah, man, like sometimes I miss. And I was like, yep, sometimes you miss. Even if you're the greatest player in the world, sometimes you miss your shot, right?
Right.
But I did give him a little bit of a hard time. I was like, man, of all the players I would have thought missed that shot, it would have been you. The guy's 6 feet away from you, but sometimes you miss. So, but yeah, man, great experience. Had a ton of fun with those guys. So glad we were able to come back and win that match to keep the sweep in order. So let's talk about Rich's group. So we had in the women, Great Britain took third place, France second. First, obviously, was the United States. Was anybody even close to these women?
I don't.
The whole tournament.
I don't think you can say there was anyone who was in the fight. I've actually, I mean, if you look at, and I wanted to pull this up just to confirm real quick, because to me, it did seem really lopsided, right? It seemed lopsided a little bit. And I just think that's because the ladies, I mean, they just work so hard. Every single one of those ladies on all their different teams work so hard at what they do. I do think that they mercied every team. So yes, that's right. I know they won every match by mercy. But there was 2 teams, Belladonna and Dreux, that's
in the
scored.
NXL. We'll talk about that. Yeah, we'll
that's
talk
right.
about that in a bit.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's
we'll
right. My bad.
Yeah.
In the other one. So yeah, I did get that mixed up, didn't I? My bad. Let's pull that up real quick because now I don't recall.
Rich is in the chat. Just ask him.
Well, Rich, you're in the chat. We're asking you. So let me pull. I've got it right here. Nope. I'm sorry. There was one team that scored on them, and that was women's France in the finals. Every other match was a mercy. 4-0, 4-0, 4-0, 4-0, 4-2. So they literally scored 20-2, outscored their opponents 20-2. That's just incredible. Absolutely incredible.
Yeah. And they were, again, they look different. Like I made that comment to Marcelo. We were sitting watching the finals, and I made the comment to him, like, man, our girls look different. Like the way they move around the field, how athletic they are, definitely how they hold their guns and manage their gun. Like they look different.
Yeah. Communication, again, another differentiating factor. Matter of fact, we ended up having a conversation with them about that. And I believe that actually was in the WNXL, but still just the same. Great interaction there as well. So appreciate Rich for letting you and I step in on that, because I just felt like that. I remember looking at you because you and I were watching those matches. I remember looking, I was like, man, we really need to say something about this. But and it's not negative, it's not bad.
I just kept
saying, like, we overcorrected.
Just ask Rich before you do it. That's all I can say.
Right.
Just ask Rich. Don't put your toe in his water.
That's right. So yes, the ladies, and just so in the athleticism, there's a lot of athletic, women in all the teams, but the athleticism, the American women was certainly on showcased at that event. And it was really impressive to watch.
So let's talk about the men really quick. And I as we talk about the men, I do want to talk about some surprises that we didn't see in these.
Right.
There's one country based on the NXL rankings that you would assume would be in this list. So third was Belgium. basically breakout spot.
Right.
Second is Great Britain, basically the lucky 15s.
Right.
And then Team USA, which is a hodgepodge of guys, some of the most nastiest players in America come together, right, to form Team USA. Where's France?
Yeah. So from what I understand, the nations team for France would have been a mixture of Scalp and Tauntauns. Now, when
Who are
you
ranked
think
what
about
in the NXL,
well,
first and second.
first. That's right. So that's right. So Scalp's first and Tauntauns were second. That's absolutely correct. I believe breakout spot's third. But so you think the combination of those two teams would have been an absolute like wrecking ball in this division. And it's one of those things. I believe they ended up sixth because they lost to Norway and they lost to Germany.
Yes.
And now the Norway match was very close. Germany, I think they lost by 2, but it was a little bit of a shock. It was very surprising to me. I think it surprised everybody there. So.
It totally surprised me. And we kind of mentioned it when we were up in the booth, and I forget our co-host's name, and I'm so sorry if you watched this from Black Red Studios. I'm not operating at a very high level.
Same.
But he literally said, these guys hate each other.
Yeah.
Like they hate each other. One's from the northern part of France, one's from the southern part of France. They're, fierce rivals. They hate each other, right? And trying to come together, I guess, just didn't work out for them. But I was totally shocked that that France did not fare better in the Nations Cup. They've always been one of the top 2 teams, 3 teams over the last several years. But the USA men, we'll kind of finish on them. One of the neat things about that group is you saw different guys being heroes at different times, right? Mm-hmm. Like, and when you have that mixture of guys where you have, Jason and Jacob Edwards and Chris Shear playing outside of Jacob Edwards, and then you have Mouse and you have Marcelo, and the combinations of Pat Kraft and Kyle Berry and
Harrison Fry.
Harrison Fry. Mm-hmm. I forget who was the other 2 on the Snake side when Harrison played. Brian Greenspan, who played.
Hey, my boy Daniel Camp.
Camp. That's who I was missing. Yeah. Daniel Camp, got to play with both Harrison and Mouse. That was just the combination of things that Skinny was throwing out. It just seemed like it all worked. It all worked all the time, right? Because they were just different heroes. Like, at one point we're standing there and they're gonna lose a point. I think it was 3-on-1. Kyle Berry breaks down the sidelines, shoots everyone, bunkers a guy in the 50 Dorito. Again, it's 3-on-1. He launches from the Dorito side corner, bunkers the guy in the 50 Dorito, shoots the last 2 guys, goes down and touches the buzzer, and just trots back in like,
just another day at the office.
Normal Thursday at the office, just doing what I do, It was just amazing. It was amazing. And right, Media Pro saying a whole team of players who can play anywhere. Totally. The
Absolutely.
guys, they kind of got to play both sides of the field, several of them. I mean, on the Snake side, they kind of Mouse played the Snake.
Right.
Mouse played the Snake. He didn't play anywhere else. So, but yeah, it was.
And I have to make a comment about that real quick. I saw the Mouse that I know at this event. Matter of fact, it made me fearful. It made me happy I didn't pull AC Diesel at this next event, because the way Mouse was going off, that's the Mouse I know. And I think everybody there recognized it and saw it. It wasn't Alex Goldman. It was Mouse.
Yeah.
Right?
I kind of said this, right before that semifinal game, he, Skinny had kind of called out the snake side and just said, hey, we're not getting enough production out of the snake side. Alex takes that personally. He takes it personally. And I guess he decided, Alex went into the phone booth, put the cape on, and he came out mouse,
Right.
because the things he was doing, I mean, they were impressive, right? And Malloy did a bunch of the things that Mouse did. You could tell he was kind of watching the process. Malloy did a bunch of the things that Mouse did in the tournament with Scalp.
Right.
So we'll transition kind of now. Let's talk about let's talk about the NXL event. So before I jump into that, though, I really quickly just want to say thanks to Laurie and Anthony, BKI Paintball, Committed Paintball, Boston Paintball, and then the sponsors of the team, GI, JT,
HK.
Am I missing anything?
Nope. I think that's got it. And of course,
families, whatever.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I was going to start to say
we got
that,
some really neat gear that you guys will see around, like got some kick-ass rain jackets and really fun looking jumpsuits and the shirt Mike's wearing. We got a bunch of fun USA gear. And so that stuff's still for sale. So if you can go to hkpaintball.com and still buy USA gear. There's a whole bunch at teamusapaintball.com. You can still buy gear there. There's a ton going around. Need a clip that incorporates a mouse and MJ from the doc, and I took that person.
I do have to say one more thing before we move on. I remember after day one, all 5 divisions of the United States teams didn't have a point scored on them. Wasn't it?
Yeah, 40-0.
40-0. And then the men's, by the way,
one.
It's worth mentioning the men's mercied all, 4 out of their 6 opponents. So they beat Portugal 4-0. They beat Italy 4-0. They beat Spain 4-0. They beat Germany 4-0. They beat Poland 4-1. And they beat Great Britain 4-1. And it's just dominant play.
Yeah, they really were unbelievable. So, Bobby, this is a great question. We're actually going to talk about this because I think, Malloy is ridiculous, but if you go back and watch, and we're going to show it, hopefully we have time to do that. Maybe. We're 50 minutes in. Probably we'll save the game, the match breakdown for another episode, maybe right after, like 2 after Chicago, because we do want to get into it, but I want to.
It was a great match. It was everything was.
Yeah, it's a great match. But we do want to talk about the NXL. We don't want to skip that. But yeah, Malloy was ridiculous. Where would Scalp rank in the United States in the top 5? Top 5.
I'd have to agree. I'd have to agree.
Yeah. So they won the event, so they're going to go straight to Sunday paintball at World Cup, and we're going to get to see. But somebody mentioned it earlier in the chat. I think it was Christian. Yeah, right here. If U.S. teams disrespect them or disregard them at Cup because they're an EU team, I can see a very rude awake. Same.
Nailed it, Christian.
In fact, Mike and I talked about that at the event. Like if any of the U.S. teams don't know about these guys, so we'll just skip to them right now since we're talking.
Let's do it.
And then
let's do it.
And then we'll go back and do the WNXL and Semi Pro. Scalp won every single match this season. They did not lose a match the entire season. They won every single tournament. They did not lose a match. They mercy ruled the majority of the teams that they played. They have done something literally in their first year of pro that I don't know will ever happen again.
It's absolutely right.
I just don't think it will ever happen again. Yes, they had Malloy play the first and third event. They had Arturo play the second event. But none of that matters if the other 4 guys aren't really.
That's exactly right. Malloy's able to do what he's able to do because the other 4 are doing their job. And it's a well-rounded crew. And if you think that you take away Malloy and they're not going to be dangerous, well, that's on you. And I think you're going to be really upset with how that turns out.
Absolutely.
So
yeah, they don't die out of their spots. Silly. They're very, very good. It's going to
and
be
their gunfighting is American level. I believe I said that on the cast that when we were in the booth, that their gunfighting is just, it's incredible. So
incredible.
they've been doing their drills.
So fun to watch.
Yeah. But yeah. Let's see.
Yeah. We went to dinner with our friend Vince, and he hooked Mike and I up with some Scalp stuff. So really excited. Huge fan.
Yes.
Huge fan. So let's go back. We'll talk about the WNXL. So second place in the WNXL was Karma. First place was Air Force One, which was the U.S. women +1, I believe, who didn't play on the on Team USA. But man, those girls, they mercy ruled every team that they played.
Mm-hmm.
Every team that they played, they mercy ruled. One of their matches, I think they played like 11 points.
Yes. There was,
right?
It was against Belladonna, and they beat them 8-3. And the player you're thinking of, I believe, is Daniela Rojas. Again, an incredible player, great athlete. She had many points where she turned the field quite well. So
she was so good.
She really was. So
yeah. And Belladonna wins this series. So congratulations to them. Semi Pro, second place was happening Leopoldsburg, and Ballistics. Again, I don't want to say the city because we're going to just destroy it. So I'm just going to call you Ballistics. But also, incredibly impressive season. A first place, second place, and a first place. Really dominant. They won the pro spot. They win the semi-pro division and win the pro spot. I think they'll do well. I think they'll do well in pro.
I do too. First of all, the player, coach, owner, Dustin, what a great story.
Totally.
You were telling me about it, and the more I talked to him and learned about him and about what he's done for, paintball in general in that area, just
Germany.
Absolutely incredible. We talk about, over here in America, we hashtag grow the sport. This man went out and made things happen, and that's incredible. Now he did have a guest player who, by the way, balled out from, you guys might recognize him from Austin Notorious, and that's Mr. Pasternak. He had some great points, but when you really look at the way that Dustin ran that team, it was really fun because I enjoyed watching him in the pit and how they did things, and of course I enjoyed talking to him at our coaches clinic. The mind is the weapon, and he knows it. So
he's cerebral, and it's just well oiled, right? Like, he knows as a player coach, he's got to get ahead of the game as it relates to what his play development's going to look like, what is the tempo in which he wants to set, and in what order he's going to run his plays. Like, he has to kind of make those decisions before the match even starts, which bit him at the second event because they weren't quick enough to adjust, right?
Right.
So did not bite them at this event. They did a great job kind of staying in front of that. Magic played great. He played great in semi-pro.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? It's like, he's a great player, but he played great in semi-pro.
Right.
But I will say, on day one, they asked me if I would come over and kind of watch and give them feedback. I walk up, I get out my stat sheet, right? I turn, watch the breakout. They shot 4 guys off the break. The next point, they shoot 3 guys off the break. The next point, they shoot 3 guys off the break. I literally folded my book, I put it back in my bag, and I was like, hey, you don't need me here for this match. I'm out of here, right? So when you can play like that in semi-pro, when you can shoot 3, 4 guys off the break, you're going to win a lot of matches. You're going to win a lot of matches. So, and in the finals, it got a little grindy, but not really. You know, not really. They pretty well stayed on top of happening pretty much the whole match. You know, they were kind of in control. So,
but that was one thing about this layout. That was one thing about this layout, though, right? You could go up 5-on-3. That 3 doesn't mean that was the end of you, though. You know, you could turn.
We saw quite a few.
Yeah,
saw quite a few low body situations that were won. Quite a few. I think they're going to do well at World Cup if they decide to come, right? But they get an invite, so hopefully they'll come. All right, so Pro, Lucky 15, Scalp, of course, talked about Scalp wins the series. And then the 3 teams who will get an invite to the World Cup is Scalp, Tauntauns, and the Lucky 15s. And then, of course, Belladonna and Karma, and I don't remember who the 3rd place team was, but they will all get invitations to this year's World Cup. And the winner of the tournament get a bye all the way into Sunday.
Right.
So,
by the way, I did want to answer Liam Robinson Sanchez. He will play. Malloy will play with Russian Legion at World Cup. So, just to answer your question there, but so Scalp, Tauntauns, Lucky 15s, they will all get the invite, like Ryan was saying. You know, I think that's very interesting because what is that? That's the Champions Cup, right? Is the definition. So the top 4 will all get a bye immediately into the quarters. So now the Scalp will get a bye into the quarters. The other 2 will have to compete in the prelims. So that means Tauntauns and Lucky 15s. And I believe it has been confirmed that Axel Gaudin of the Tauntauns did declare, because they have to declare at the beginning of the season. That's one of the new rules now. And Axel did declare that he will not play with X Factor. He will, in fact, play with the Tauntauns at World Cup.
Yeah, which will make a difference for X Factor. It'll make it a little tougher. Yeah, Liam, I respect your opinion, but I think you're wrong. I think Scout makes top 5 even without Malloy. I think, again, if you go back and watch the final match, Malloy's really impactful in 2 of the points. That's it. He's really impactful in 2 points. Yeah. So, I don't go back and watch Scalp a little more, get a little more data, and then come back and let us know.
I will tell you that American teams should be watching tape on Scalp throughout the season. Absolutely.
A lot.
You know,
a lot. You pull those guys and you don't know them, you're in trouble.
That's absolutely right. So I am interested to see what Vince is going to do, right? He's not going to have Arturo. He's not going to have Malloy. I'm interested in who he is going to pick up. And he's got several options that I feel that he could pick from any of the European teams, if necessary, to bring with him.
Sure.
And I'm sure with the way he handles things and the way he runs his camp, I have no doubt that they'll integrate rather quickly. So, you know, just stay away from Nick Ripple.
I'm so glad you said that he'll pick up, because that's exactly where my brain went, is like, he's not coming without an all-star snake guy.
I know. Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
He's going to have one. And maybe it's the Spartan. Maybe it picks up the Spartan.
Maybe it's the Spartan. One of my favorite guys to watch this week was number 300. And so I named him the Spartan because he had 300 on his jersey. And I believe he was playing for Ala Warsaw, who Chris Shear was guesting with as well. And man, I was like, I got to remember that guy's name. So it's, you know, he.
Don't say it.
No, I'm not saying it because I don't want anyone looking it up. I don't want him looking him up because, but I do know his name.
Quick.
I might give his first name, but that's it. Fronic. It's such a strong name too, right? You know, but it's incredible that that dude was that's something I did want to talk about in the pro division. There were 2 teams that really surprised me at this event. They were so, what did I call them? I said kinetic. But that word doesn't do them justice either. I mean, you want to talk about stepping on the gas. You want to talk about lighting a fire. You want about hitting the turbo, knocking nitrous, whatever you want to say. these guys were incredible. And that was Ala Warsaw. And the other is PP Arena Pilsen.
Arena.
Just goodness gracious. I don't think anybody saw them coming. Didn't they do that last year though, Arena? You know, they didn't do very well at the first two events, and then they showed up and just started just beating people over the head with frying pans. So.
Yeah, and this year they actually had a pretty good first event. They got sixth. So they went 6th, 17th, and then 5th. Last year, they kind of struggled at the first two events, and they came to the last event and played really, really well. But yeah, man, same. Those two teams, man, the tempo.
Yes.
It was just like all gas, no brakes the entire time.
Yeah.
The whole time. Like, win or lose, we're going to do it in 45 seconds to a minute. And we're just going to go. And it was just tempo. Really incredibly fun to watch. Maybe the most fun two teams we did watch.
I agree. Every time they were up, I wanted to watch. I was like, hey, we're not missing this. You know, we'd be in the VIP grandstands watching, and it was just incredibly fun to watch.
We kept trying to leave, and then we were like, but this next set.
That's right. Wait, but this next one.
FSU and somebody were playing one of the last sets, and we were like, well, we might as well watch that one too.
That's right.
They were so good.
Another great team to. I just wanted to throw out to Ron Holt Dynamite as well.
Thank you for bringing them up.
Yeah.
Ron Holt Dynamite gets their first podium ever. First podium. And just so everybody kind of understands the history of Ron Holt Dynamite, they were the U19 Norway team from 2021, and they all stayed together.
That's right.
Went pro, and then so that was 2022, go pro. Last year, had a pretty good season last year, but this year have had a great season. They totally have overperformed, finishing the series in 5th place with a 4th place, 9th place, and a 3rd place finish. Again, that's a team that's been pro for only a couple seasons. Get their very first podium finish at this event. So a lot of great things in their future. Also, Norway's youth team was also really good. Really good.
They really were. I
believe Ron Holt Dynamite also took down the Tauntauns, right?
Yes, they did.
Yeah.
I did want to send out a couple of special mentions just because, you know, we've kind of been focusing on Team USA a little bit for the first half. And I wanted to send out a shout out to all the American players who guested with several of the European teams. I would be, you know, remiss if I didn't send a big shout out to my friend and you know, teammate Daniel Camp, who guested with 5-star. By the way, 5-star picked up 2 young gentlemen that I enjoyed watching play paintball this weekend as well. I believe they're from Canada, Nick Campbell and Dylan Rosardo. I believe they are with the Sea Dogs.
Sea Dogs.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I enjoyed talking to those 2 gentlemen and getting to know them. Great players. Keep an eye out for those gentlemen. That was really impressive. Chris Shear with Ala Warsaw. I believe we had Grayson Gladstone with Gladiatori. Let's see. Who else am I missing? Bad Boys had
Ryan Hoskinson.
Of course, Shock had a crew there. They underperformed by a lot, I would think. That was kind of surprising as well. Austin FSU, a little surprising as well, taking an 11th with Shock taking a 17th. But man, just an incredible amount of great paintball played in the pro division.
Yeah. You forgot a few. You had Harrison Fry on Joy Division.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, Pat Kraft Jr. on Breakout Spa.
Oh, how could I forget that one? I was watching a lot of their matches with his. By the way, congratulations, Pat, to your lovely bride-to-be. She was wonderful to speak with. Really enjoyed watching matches with her up in the stands. And tell William we said hello.
That's funny. Media Pros says Hosky turned it up after you provided some valuable. Were you standing down there as I was talking to him? Like, how does he know we provided back? Like,
well, because you and I remember you and I were standing. We were standing up and we were in the booth, and he was standing there. And
Yeah.
we were both kind of, yelling down at him. You
Yes.
were really giving him the what for. I was just kind of smiling behind going, hey, it's going to be all right.
Yeah, be the
tempo.
one, right?
Yeah,
Is really
be the
the
one.
advice. Be the
Right.
one. Stop trying to be the two. Go do what made you paintball famous, right? Stop
That's
trying
right.
to be the two.
Absolutely.
You're a young man. You're a young guy. Keep playing well. Yeah, Ryan, bless his heart, the paint was rough for them.
Yeah.
Just could not seem to get paint out of his gun, and was in excuse me, in position multiple times to change the game, and just unfortunately didn't work out. Yeah, Caputo. I don't know who Caputo played for in the pro division.
I don't think he
played. He played, I think, also with Gladiatori.
That's right, he did, and I know he played with Team Italy during the Nations Cup. So dual citizenship, by the way. I was chatting with him a little bit about now he's a dual citizen between the United States and Italy, and I've actually been looking into that myself, and he was giving me some great advice on that. So thank you, Mr. Caputo, for that. So
yeah.
What have we not covered?
That's what I was just looking at. Invites to World Cup. Yep, we talked about that.
Yep. I'm going through my little thing.
All right, guys. Really sorry. We're going to save we're an hour and 10 minutes into this. We are going to save the game breakdown because unfortunately I need to go to sleep because I am jet lagged and I have a bit of a headache. But next week we'll do our pre-Chicago show. So we will have SK and Shane Pastana on. We will do our picks. And thank God we're going to have a layout to do the picks. So I'm really excited about that. We'll know a lot of information after this weekend. Mike is practicing the Kings. We are practicing at LAX. We are practicing Houston Heat down in Houston at Wastelands. It's going to be a big weekend. Layout drops tomorrow. So we will have a very quick 30 to 45 minute live field breakdown that we'll do for you guys. But again, it's going to be fast. What time you want to do that tomorrow?
Let's see. I think our team meeting is at 7:30. So we'd have to do it around 6:30.
6:30. So it's 6:30 p.m. tomorrow. And I'll throw it out on social media. We'll do a virtual field walk on that layout. Guns up again. It will be limited to 45 minutes because Mike and I both have team meetings tomorrow evening. Thanks for joining us tonight to hear us just rap. Go ahead.
There is one more thing. I can't believe we haven't done it yet, but a big shout out to Kevin Brethauer for what he did this week as well. First of all, Kevin, he stepped in there and he's got all this right on his plate, and it was a true honor, and I enjoyed, and I know you did as well. You and I both were like, hey, how can we help? What can we do? And thank you, Kevin, for all you did, and thank you for trusting Ryan and I to help out and scout and do what you needed of us. So thank you, sir.
Yeah, and just so you guys know, like most of the time, Mike and I were literally taking stats. Like we were doing stuff that our assistants normally do, and which was awesome, right? Because we get you get to stay sharp doing those things, watching the breakout and then statting it out, helping, skip. Like we would take the sheets to him, give him an idea of what we saw, some things we think, we thought could combat some of the things they were doing, or some areas that, that team didn't manage very well. It was a lot of fun, right? But it's one of those things that if you really go into an experience like Team USA, you just have to be really humble, and you do whatever it takes. You do whatever's asked of you, and do it to the best of your ability. So absolutely. Yeah, Kevin did a great job. I mean, when we talk about Team USA rolling deep, we roll deep. Not just incredible players, but great coaches. I mean, I thought the coaching staff was, I learned a lot from a ton of people this weekend. I learned a lot from Rich, kind of listening to him, and I'm going to continue to listen to him because as I look at how to try to broaden, my coaching ability, I just don't think I can coach women. And listening to the way he does it and how he manages them, it's constantly trying to learn how to do that. And even you with the kids, right? Like I don't really have a very soft approach most of the time. I'm not good with the correction sandwich. I'm trying.
But you were reminding me
to
of
do
it.
that.
You were reminding me.
One time I got to remind you of it, which was good.
I did slam my playbook one time. So
what an amazing experience, and so glad I got to do it with you and Alex, and get to keep those memories for a really long time. And what a fun group of guys. And we got invited back, which is great. So we'll be there for 2025 as long as we don't do anything too stupid, I guess. So
watch you. Oh yes,
Bobby, me too. Yeah. And there's a whole bunch of stuff coming, right? So Alex Sorensen mic'd us up at different points, mic'd a bunch of the coaches up. There's a whole bunch of content coming out. I mic'd up Marcelo for a full match.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. 100%. Way to go, Media Pro.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And it's not about changing as much as it's about just kind of trying to evolve, right? Like there are certain, there's ways to be able to do the corrections, especially during a match, right? Like you can't really do correction during a match, especially in the way that I want to do it, where I call it the baby shake. I want to grab them real tight around their jersey as close as I can get my hands and give them a little shake. Can't do that. Right. They need to really be focused on what they're doing.
But just like players, right? Adaptation is such a key component in paintball. And just like players, we have to evolve as well. Our styles, we have to improve. I learned so much this past weekend that I'm going to start, like we said, at that dinner, I'm looking at that book and going, wow, I used to do that. I don't do that anymore. I need to do it again and step up our game. And that's something that we really didn't get into, that I'd love to, in a future episode, talk about how, we talk about how Europe's catching up. They're doing those things that we did years ago, but not only are they doing those things that we did years ago, they're taking it to the next level, which is closing that gap really fast.
And executing it incredibly well.
That's right.
Incredibly.
That's right.
So I do want to say this too before we go, like, to all the coaches who came to the clinic, thank you so much. We, took information even from you guys, and so sorry that it got dark on us and we almost got thrown out of the venue. I guess kind of really did get thrown out of the venue.
We did get thrown out.
Yeah, but thank you guys for bearing with us. We know it was a weird start time and those kind of things. We hope you got a ton. I've got a couple of emails from some of you guys already. We'll get those answered and get them back out to you. With that being said, please sign up for the Chicago Clinic. It is literally right around the corner. So if you are wanting to participate in the Chicago Coaches Clinic, you need to get signed up as quickly as possible. That is on PB Leagues. Right at the top of the page in the Chicago event, there's a link that said Chicago Coaches Clinic. You can also go to majorleaguepb.com//coach show, and you can sign up right there. So if you're wanting to participate in that, you need to get signed up ASAP. That's going to close soon. And that will be the last one of the 101. And then we'll move on at World Cup to the 202. We're going to talk about game management, clock management, lines, like how to call lines, how to be organized with that. You're going to get a ton of new stuff, but it's literally going to build on what we talked about in 101. So foundational stuff in the 101. Now we're going to put the bricks on the side of the house. So do not miss an opportunity to get some foundational information before we move on to the 202. Anything else I'm missing?
No, there's just so much I want to talk about, and but like you, man, I'm fading.
Yeah, no, I think we saved it because again, the game breakdown. There's some really interesting and neat things that have happened. I've got some notes on the match, and I think giving us a little bit of time to really do it well, I think the viewers and listeners would appreciate that. So right. I'd rather give them a really good breakdown than just wing it.
Right.
So yeah,
I concur, because it's such a good match. It's all that it was billed to be.
Great match.
And it was
Totally.
I mean, it was back and forth. It was a tennis match. And I've got some detailed notes as well. But like you, I want to give the people, I mean, this is a match that you can really dig into, especially from a coaching perspective. There was a couple of things that was going on there between Vince and Marcelo that was really fascinating to watch. So, and honestly, it would be great because I would love to do that breakdown, and then I'd want to send it to Marcelo and Vince and ask them how accurate and close we were to what they were actually doing.
So I'll tell you my plan is to try to do the breakdown with them.
Ooh. Yes.
I'd like to try to do a post-production show on a Saturday and do it.
Yes.
So that's my plan.
Yes. Yeah. I
Okay.
like that idea a lot.
All right. Thank you for watching this episode of the Coaches Show. Thank you to Black Red Studios for using the video that we're going to use. They sent it, just so you guys know, we have Black Red Studios gave us a full drone camera of the entire match. So there's no scores on it. There's no nothing. It's just an awesome overhead view. So we'll get everything. We'll be able to draw all the lines on it. We'll be able to show you where all the guns are facing. Like, it is the best footage. Here, I'll just show you guys. Oh, I think I already pulled it up once, but I'll show you again. I mean, the whole match is going to look like this. So we're going to be able to really dig into it. It's going to be awesome.
Yep. I can't wait.
So, thank you to Major League Paintball for the support of the show. Darren Cessna, Alex Sorensen, Kevin Fillers, and Tom Cole. If you want to elevate your game, possibly play for USA Paintball, go to the combines, go to summer camp, and get BKI Paintball. At BKIPaintball.com, check out the combines and summer camp. This show has been brought to you by Max Sportswear. When needed, get Max. Get a cool shirt like this. It's also, by the way, what the Chicago shirt will look like.
But it'll be in English.
Except it'll be in English, not French. I'm Ryan Gray with Mike Bianca. As always, be responsible.